Okay, now we're going to try fill in our chord boxes and we're going to think about our progressions while we do that, okay? So progressions that are allowed and progressions that aren't. So I've written here that 5 to 5, 7 is allowed, but the reverse is unacceptable. So that means you're not allowed to use 5, 7 to 5. However, 5 to 5, 7 is good, but the reverse is unacceptable. You're allowed 2, so 2B, that's the inversion of chord 2, to 5 is a good progression. So you're allowed to invert all the chords except chord 6. So not allowed to invert chord 6, okay? So just keep that. Don't invert it. Oh yeah, never double the leading note. So you're not allowed to double the leading note. Right, what does that mean, the leading note? So in our key, we're in this key of C minor. So I'm just going to write out the scale C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So because we're in the key of C minor, I'm writing out the scale here. And the leading note is the 7th note. So you just count 7 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is the leading note. Now doubling the leading note means that you can't have the B in the treble clef. Let's see, can I find a B in the treble clef? Where is the B in the treble clef? Oh yeah, here's a B in the treble clef. So that means you can't have a B natural in the treble clef and double it in the bass clef by putting a B natural in the bass clef, okay? So just take note of that when you're doing your inversions. All right, they might come up. Also in a major key, you're not allowed to double the third, the major third. In the minor key, it's not that important, but in the major key, you're not allowed to double the major third. Okay, so here we go. I'm looking at this, so I could put in my chord 4. Chord 1 to chord 4 is fine. I could use 2B, because 2B going to 5 is a good progression. And then 5 is allowed to go to 6, and then 6 to 5 to 6, that could work, okay? Right, so I know I want to have a progression here, that's important. So I'm going to use my chord 6, and my chord 5 going to chord 6 is good, because that gives us an interrupted cadence. Now I have 5, 7 here, so before this, am I going to use chord 1? Chord 1 would be good, 1 going to 5, all right, so 1 would be an option. So if I put 1 here, what will I put before it? I could push 5 going to 1. So try to stick with your primary chords. So 1, 5, and then here I'd have 4. So don't just use inversions just for the fun of it. And chord 4 here. Now, you can use 5, 7 even if you don't have that 7th note. Even if you don't have this 7th note in the treble clef or the bass clef, you can still use chord 5, 7 if you want to, okay? I tend to use chord 5, 7 when it's in the treble or when it's in the bass clef, just so you know. Okay, now that's one phrase done. Let's look at our third phrase. So third phrase here, we want to make sure we have a cadence here. So any chord going to 5 is a cadence, right? Now, so we can use chord 4 or we can use chord 2B. Now I'm just noticing that we have chord 4 here. So I might choose chord 2B. And 2B going to 5 is a good cadence, or is a good progression. Now, the beginning of our phrase. We're just going to look, see, and which are the best options for us. So if I work backwards here, I'm going to have F in the bass now, because this is chord 2B. So just remember, when you're using chord 2B, F is going in the bass, okay? That's what an inversion means. You're changing the root note. The root note is now F. So F will be in the bass here. And if I use chord 4, F is also in the bass in chord 4. I'll just show you. F is also in the bass in chord 4. And that's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. So I could use chord 4 here. If I use chord 4 here, then I'm using chord 6 before it. And 6 to 4 is a good progression. So if I pencil in 4 here and 6 before it, 6 to 4 is a good progression, okay? So 6 to 4 is a good progression. Now before that, I can use chord 5 going to chord 6. That's a good progression. Now, before chord 5, we always said 2B going to chord 5 is a good progression. So I have the options of 5, 7 or 2B. Now I did say up here you can't have 5 going to 5, 7. I did say that. So we're not going to use 5, 7. For that reason, we're not going to use 5, 7 here. We're going to use 2B. But 2B is going to 5 is a good progression. Now, see that circle I'm doing for chord 2? You have to have that circle there, just like they have, okay? So it means diminished. Do you see that circle? You have to have that circle too. 2B. This is in a minor question. Okay, now let's look at the first bar of phrase 3. So we have 2 options left. Now we're not going to use chord 2B because we just used it. So our option is 5, 7. And that's our only option. So we're going to use 5, 7 here. Well, we could use an inversion of chord 5 as well. That is another option. Now, so we have the options 2B or chord 4 or chord 5, 7. Now, I don't use inversions that I don't have to, so we'll just use chord 4 to start with. So chord 4. Now, the last phrase, we only have a few boxes to fill in. So we have our options picked already. So we picked chord 4 or chord 6 were our options. So if I put chord 4 here, I can't use 4, I'd have to use 2B, and that's fine, I'm allowed to use 2B going to 5. So for that reason I'm going to use 2B here, and I'm going to put chord 4 here. So 4 to 2B, and then here I have the options 5 to 1. So if I use chord 1 here, now chord 5 going to chord 6, that's a good progression, so that's fine. And chord 5 going to 1 is also a good progression. So either of those will work. But what comes next? So chord 1 going to 5 is a good progression. That's fine. Or chord 6. Chord 6 going to 2B to 5. Actually, they'll both work. So it's up to you which ones you choose. I'm going to stick with our primary chords. So I'm going to go with chord 1, and I'm going to go with 2B. Now, or I could use an inversion of chord 5 if I wanted, or I could make this one chord 5, 7 and use chord 5 here. So what I'll do is I'll just use my 2B. Okay.